everybody, this is Brittany here with Surfing Waves of Light, and today I'm going to be bringing through some messages while driving in my car. I haven't posted a video in a while. There's been a lot happening. It's summer. You guys know that by now, that my summer schedule is a little more busy, but mostly because I've been guided to really just be in the moment, enjoy summer. It flashes by so quickly. It's a lot, but it's also fleeting and goes so fast. So I've really just been enjoying my summer, practicing balance, and been getting messages, but the guides have told me to allow those messages to really simmer down, and that they will be bringing them through in these videos, but just allow it to really come into my body, into my being, be more fully grounded in before speaking on them. So just taking a little break. So anyway, I right now am on my way to the Boundary Waters. I am going on a trip to visit my cousin. My friend Carissa's coming, and some others from England that I don't know. I'm very excited to meet them. This is Lake Superior on the boundary of the United States and Canada. And so we're going to be canoeing in and spending some time in the woods. Some of you may or may not know that I actually get pretty frightened in the woods, so I'm really excited to see where I'm at. I've been doing a lot of mind work around deprogramming my fear of the woods, which mostly came from watching a lot of unsolved mysteries as a child and like scary videos about animals. And I've been very vigilant not to watch that stuff and to watch a lot of positive videos. I watch videos all the time of like bears and humans hugging. There's a channel I watch that has a pet panther, just all sorts of these really cool, just, you know, the opposite conditioning and things I really truly believe. It's funny, in some stories that we watch on the TV, for example, the Chronicles of Narnia series, in a later movie of theirs, or actually I think throughout the whole movie, they can talk to animals. But there's a later movie where they leave that world for a really long time and they come back, and the youngest girl goes to hug a bear, but the bears have all forgotten. And so, you know, it kind of charges her because she goes near it. And it just reminds me that that's kind of where we are right now. I do have very strong guidance that one day our relationships with all things will be loving and positive, and all these distortions, these miscommunications, which have led to attacks or sort of low frequency interactions with animals, that's on its way out. Of course, I'm not saying approach wildlife or do anything like that, but just saying that what my guides have shown me is that that is a possible future for us, is to reconnect with nature. And that's a really big theme of the Anastasia series that I've been reading, and I'm currently reading with my spiritual book club. We're going to do, I think, all 10 books. We read the first one, it went really well. We're going to read the second one, and in her world, which was the 90s, modern day, I believe Anastasia is still around. She does not need to wear clothes. She had a child, and the bears and wolves like watch her child, and there's just this completely different interaction with nature. And it was really cool to see that played out in a book that took place in Russia in the recent, past. I know she's born in a different way, well, she's a human, but, she wasn't exposed to our society and our conditioning. And it's very interesting because in later books, when she ends up having a child with this normal man who visits the Siberian taiga, and they meet, and it's this whole thing. But basically, when she has the child, she lets him know that he won't be able to talk to the child for many years, because his mind is so tainted with impure thoughts and the conditioning of our society. So very interesting. And a lot of what she says really aligns with the Course, aligns with a lot of spiritual teachings. And again, she's not, looking for money or fame. She doesn't need any of that. She just lives this very beautiful existence in the woods where she connects with nature in this totally different way. And so that's what I'm looking to cultivate in my life. And I had to start with being afraid, but now I'm moving through that. I think it's going to go really well. I love being in groups, and I know that all of the fears I've ever had have been from a lack of experience. So that's where I'm headed, and it's just going to be a fun time, but it's also a chance for me. I'm an ocean girl, as you guys know. My family, we had a beach house, so we didn't go on vacation. We just always went to the Jersey Shore, which I feel extremely grateful for, because I've been able to develop this entire lifestyle. So that brings me to the first kind of point of this video. I wrote down my notes on this milkshake wrapper because as I was driving out, I thought, wow, it'd be great to post a video. I feel like it's the right time. And as part of going to the Boundary Waters, my intention is to channel a video every day. So I know I've said that before. I'm gonna follow the energies, but I thought it would be really cool to travel to different places and see what messages come through, what the energies are. I know other channels have done this, and I'm feeling inspired. I think this year and the next couple of years, I'm gonna have a lot more travel. I've been home for a lot of years, setting a foundation. So since I'm naturally there, I'll start there. So I had a dream last night, and in the dream I was back in the hospital, and I was running all around being an ER nurse, here, there, and then my friend's mom's dog bit me in the nose and I needed help, and I had this big cut, and no one would assess my nose to see if it was broken or if I needed more care. And it was, you know, obviously irritating, and it just brought up those feelings again of feeling left hanging out to dry, not having enough help, feeling unsupported. And there were a lot of patients and a lot of things going on, and I went up to the administrator or the supervisor and I said, there's not enough nurses. Why isn't there enough nurses? There's all this money in the budget for other things. And the guy was just, I don't know what he said, but basically he was like, we're not getting more nurses. And it was funny because then in the middle of the shift, I realized, I was like, oh yeah, I have a whole business that's successful. I don't have to work here anymore. And it was so kind of strange how it happened, how all of a sudden I just had this realization. But it's one of the things I wanted to talk about first, which is creation. And one of the things that Anastasia talks about in her book is that our purpose on this planet is to create heaven on earth. So from her downloads of her very pure existence in the wilderness, you know, not needing the things that we think we need here on planet Earth. A lot of trucks pass on this road. So from her existence, she says that when you die, when you leave your body, the place you go in heaven is actually very much what it will be like what you built here. So what you do here on earth is you build a heaven for yourself. And the Course kind of says this too. They said, like, you create a happy life, and then eventually it just trickles over. And so I know I'm far from being of a pure mind, of moving into another state of consciousness, like being able to leave my body at will outside of the dream state and things. But one thing I do have to say that my guides have been encouraging me to celebrate is that over the past few years, I've had the opportunity to create this foundation of a life I love. And what happened when my dad died almost 6 years ago was I realized that I couldn't live my life and feel like I was getting my happiness from other people. When I realized that people could leave the planet, especially someone like my dad, who was not only my father but one of my best friends, I realized I have to create a life that I love. And at that same moment, I realized I didn't love nursing, and it was very draining for me, and it was really tough. And so it was a very hard journey at 27, 28 to change my career, shift into a new realm. And I just thought, okay, well, what do I love? I love surfing. I love energy work. I love channeling. I mean, I was still like figuring that out. Maybe I didn't quite know that yet, but I love speaking. So I just started doing it. And it's 6 years later, and you know, I'm not saying I'm making $1 million, but I am at a place now. I've simplified my life so I don't have a lot of overhead, built the bus, and I'm at a place now where I feel like I have this very strong foundation of, if I go to work, it's work that I love. And I have a life that I love. And so I feel like now I actually can even begin really creating, because when I worked at the hospital, I made a lot of money, but every time I went there, I felt like my cup was emptied. And so, of course, when you're working, you know, sometimes I have a surf lesson and I'm tired, I'd rather sleep in, or I have to do something and I'd rather just chill and enjoy my life. I love chilling. I don't ever need to work. I can fill all my time, no problem. But obviously there's a purpose for me to do some work. So, but yeah, so as I, sometimes, you know, you go to work and yeah, it's not always exactly what you want to do or easy, but, and maybe, you know, my cup gets emptied a little bit because I'm not quite in the mode, but it's never the dumping of energy that I used to experience. Like literally I'd go in for a 12-hour shift and I'd come home and like my cup was completely empty. And even the other day, so part of how I've been able to support myself through Surfing Waves of Light is I've been doing consulting work for a company called Dylan Marcus. And Dylan Marcus is an executive consulting firm. We do executive leadership retreats. We do leadership programs. And it's really cool because the people who run the company is my aunt and uncle. They are very aware of the universe. They introduced me to Abraham Hicks and channeling. And so we have a beautiful way of bringing in love to all our teaching. So it's very aligned, and I've gotten a lot of practice at presenting and holding retreats. And so the other day they gave me an account all on my own, and it was a bit of a responsibility. You know, I had that mental energy of, you know, planning. If you ever planned a retreat or a meeting out there, you'll know what this is like. I had to plan it all, and the day of, you know, the place was about 2 hours away from where I live, so it ended up being like a 16-17 hour day. But it was so fun. I enjoyed the entire thing, and I came home and yeah, I was tired, but I felt fulfilled. I felt satisfied. And when I used to be a nurse, I would run my butt off for 12.5 hours, and I would always leave feeling guilty, like I didn't do enough because I didn't have enough time. The room changeovers were too quick. I didn't really have another person that you sometimes need to give good care, to make sure the patients are changed. So it was just like a really cool feeling to work this long day and come home and feel this great sense of accomplishment, of joy, of love. And that is just a microcosm of the macrocosm of my life. And so I'm sharing this with you because sometimes in a spiritual practice, I haven't been sure, how do I move forward? What does it mean to be love? And what I'm learning, and at least where my journey is taking me, is that love means creating a life you love, looking at all the aspects, relationships, money, work, your spiritual practice or exercise, whatever those realms are, and looking for the expression of yourself that is the highest joy and that brings you the most love. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's like I said, this has been 6 years in the making. You know, I live in a bus still. I'm not managing big expenses or anything, but I'm getting there, and it just feels like the foundation has been set, and now all I have to do is keep going forward. And I think that's one of the messages that Spirit really wants to share with everyone, that if your true north is pointed at love, even if you're still not being loving in 98% of your interactions, but if you know that your job is to be an expression of love, of yourself, of gentle, kind compassion, then it is inevitable that you're going to get to that place where you create the life you love, where you are love, where you connect with people you love. And so all you have to do is keep that north. And don't be upset if when you're in your life you get upset or you feel guilty or sad. If you continue to ask for help in releasing those things and just being okay with what is, inevitably you'll get there. So know that the timeline we're on now, because you're all a reflection of me, so I'm sure some of this is resonating with you. This timeline we're on, there is no chance that you can't go back to love. It's absolutely certain that you will. So if you've been feeling ungrounded or upset or not sure about what's happening, or feeling like a lot of deep feelings are coming up, this full moon was big. It was very big, physically big, but also energetically. A lot of big changes are happening. I'm seeing it in my own life, in my friends' lives. There are just these major shifts, and when these major shift comes, a lot of times big upsets will come with them, because to get to that shift, there's still a distortion that needs to be cleared. And I've seen this a lot because I get inspired to watch things on YouTube, sometimes about, people's downfall and stuff, and I think, oh, this is egoic. But what I've realized is my guides want me to look at all the ego traps that have befallen others. And not that my destiny is to be famous, because it isn't, but what they're sharing is that as we embody more love, we're going to be attracting more energy to us, and so inevitably we'll have more attention. And so it's not that we're going to be, Taylor Swift or Jessica Simpson or something like that. But what's good, at least for me, is to see the distortions people have. And so my latest research binge has been on crypto. I watched this channel called CoffeeZilla. I just kind of came to me. It felt very natural, felt very right. And he was going through all these crypto scams, and not saying that all of crypto is a scam. I don't know anything about it. I've never had guidance to invest in it. It's just way over my head. But there were a couple of scams that he highlighted. And it was funny because so many of the people that perpetuated these scams, they had tons of money. And this also came up for me when I watched the Elvis movie, the new version that came out. And again, I don't know if that's totally true or not, but what my guides were reminding me through watching those videos was that if you don't take the time to do the work, the simplification process of combing out, what do I really need? What really makes me happy? What is that deep anchoring of life that doesn't cost money? And that's for me is surfing and nature, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Then you get lost in having money, and so $1 million can be like having $10,000, because you can just spend it on limos and jets and all sorts of crazy things, because you're not really anchored in who you are. You don't really have that deep core connection of love and happiness to yourself. So if a lot of you feel like the past few years have been really tough, or you've been forced to do some really deep cleansing, know that you're doing the work, and that you're clearing out these distortions that if they had not been cleared now, as you continue to gain more love, and as you continue to be more accentuated and present in your life for those around you, the aspects, people that are you, that are around you, those distortions would have come out in bigger ways. So right now, while we're more in privacy, while we're not quite obvious leaders of our communities, which is the future for anyone directed at love, is going to be to help others find love, and we're all going to be asked to be leaders in this. Clearing these distortions now, living in these different ways where, we don't have everything that we've been accustomed to. I was accustomed to houses and laundry, and I had a lot of luxuries in my life, and going through the bus process has been really hard. Fought with Greg a million times over the bus. You could ask some of my friends what my biggest complaint would be, and it probably would be, because of my ego, my living situation, and just the past couple of years, it's been difficult. It hasn't been easy. But the cool thing is I'm now at a place where I'm a lot more comfortable in that state. And of course, I have access to houses. I'm not fully living in a bus all the time, but that's what's cool about this life, is we don't have to do things in any way. And this is something else the guides have been saying a lot, is they've been challenging me, and now they're challenging you to look at your life and see what resources you have access to, because the path to a loving existence is there for all of us. And for me, my resource is having a family that has a beach house. And synchronistically, and I don't think so, synchronistically enough, I thought I said coincidentally, so I said I don't think so. But anyway, synchronistically, my mom, she's one of 8. When I was 1 year old, her and 5 of her siblings plus my grandparents went in on a beach house. I mean, what are the odds of that? So that helps me to know that that's been part of my path, that resource was meant to be there for me as I bridge this gap to living a simpler life, to transitioning a bus. And it's funny because me and my dad always had dreams of buying a house on LBI and fixing it up. My dad was a plumber, heater, air conditioner. He could do everything. Like, he could do electric, he could do it all. Masonry. I watched him put in tiles and just everything. He had friends that were contractors and he could do it. And so when I was a travel nurse, I was making like $8,000 a month after taxes. I mean, crazy money. And so, I was going to travel nurse and make good money, and then we were going to buy a house together, fix it up together, and rent it out. And so sometimes I'm like, ooh, why didn't that happen to me? That would have been great. Financial security, blah, blah, blah. But the fact that my dad passed away and then Greg came into my life, it just shows me, okay, this is the resource that's here, Greg, and he's someone who could build out a bus. He's an amazing carpenter, woodworker, surfboard shaper, just general life coach and entrepreneurial coach. He's been having his own business for a long time. So you can just kind of look around you and see what resources are at your disposal, and trust that whatever is at your disposal, those are the ones that are going to help you achieve your life purpose, or achieve that heaven on earth, create that heaven on earth. So, for a long time I thought that I want a house, I want to feel secure, that I had to go through that for like years of that back and forth, knowing that I was guided to convert a bus, but also feeling that pull of security, of that comfort of the way I had been raised. And yet truly I have never felt more free than now in this experience. I don't think it's forever. I have a lot of more guidance about why the bus was a necessary step for me. Part of it was because I've always been hosting, and this time in my life isn't about hosting all the time. It's about getting into good habits and rituals, incorporating myself, getting into channeling on a consistent basis, creating more. Now that this foundation's set, I have a place to live, I know how money is coming in. Now it's really time to create. And so time and space, and I've actually continued to get offered to watch people's houses. So it's just funny how things are playing out, and I just wanted to share some of those ideas with you. But basically, yeah, it was cool that in my dream I'm back in the hospital doing all this work, being treated poorly, and then I just realized, like, oh yeah, I can support myself outside of this. And it's been a goal that's been 6 years in the making. So our society tends to celebrate births and weddings and engagements, and my guides always joke around that we need to create new things to celebrate, because a lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, those type things really like deepen you, connect you more deeply into the matrix. And what they're saying is that there is no celebration for you started a business and it's working out, or you build an off-grid home that can sustain you and doesn't cost a lot of money or energy or anything. And so they're really reminding me to celebrate and mark these milestones. Actually, another teaching of Dylan Marcus too, but the guides have been saying, just because I'm not hitting those traditional milestones, it doesn't mean there isn't a lot to celebrate. And you don't need to do that in a party, but whatever that is for you. So just a interesting way to start off this little video. So now I want to move into surfing as a spiritual practice. So I just had this download yesterday as I was biking to the beach. I'm getting ready to go to the Boundary Waters, and of course, whenever I'm about to leave LBI, I really can appreciate LBI. And of course too, the water the past 2 days has been crystal clear, warm, looks like the Caribbean. Been like flat, tiny waves. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. Nothing in it. And so I went for a swim yesterday, and sometimes I get hard on myself because I don't wake up every day and sit in silent meditation, and I don't always do my course lesson. But what I realized is that surfing, as much as it is a sport, an activity, a way to connect with nature, it's actually a spiritual practice. And surfing for me, it's not just taking a surfboard up to the ocean and riding a wave and standing up. It's more about connecting with the ocean. It's about checking the ocean to see what is the best way to work with it that day. So if the waves are really big, that might not be a day to take out a longboard. That might be a day to body surf or shortboard or boogie board. If the waves are small, then that's a day to bring out a longboard, or if it's flat, go for a nice log swim where your strokes aren't interrupted by the waves. And so what surfing has done for me is it's helped me to create a lifestyle where I wake up every day, most days. I mean, some days I just have other things to do, but I have to get up early, which you guys might know isn't my strong suit. But I pretty much every day go up to the ocean and check it to see what's going on. And the guides have told me that the ocean is a reflection of the energies that are in the air. And it's funny, right as this full moon hit, we had a Hurricane Ernesto. That's my dad's name, was Ernie, so felt like it was for me. And the waves were really big, and there was a lot of energy in the water. And now today, as the full moon is waning, as these energies are starting to settle in, these big transitions are starting to settle in. The upsets we've had were probably highlighted during the full moon. Anything that came up there put a light on it, and now things are starting to settle, and that's what the ocean has been. And so surfing is like a Course in Miracles too, where it's not a church, it's not a religion, it's a self-study course. And that's what I feel is really the key of the Course in Miracles for me, that separates it from other spiritual teachings. There's no pyramid scheme or ladder, there's no you're better than me. It's just the awareness that we are all love, that we are all pure unconditional love, and we're coming back into that awareness. And as love, we're all equals. Some of us have studied the Course longer, some of us have been more aware of it longer, but what I've been feeling, and I did an energy session yesterday for a friend who is pregnant, what I was feeling was that my role truly in anything I do is just to help people remember that they are loved, that there's no bad karma they deserve. Heading into a birth process, I think a lot of deep conditioning about what a birth must look like. Everyone shares their traumatic birth stories. A lot of that can be really anchored into us. And so as we go through our day and as we prepare for, these bigger life things like having a baby, which I've never done, so I can't speak to it, but this is what the guides have been saying. There's just a lot of cultural energies that are associated with that are a little bit more low frequency. And so my job really in that session was just to hold space for her and remind her that there's no bad karma, there's nothing bad that needs to happen in her birth, that in fact it could be a pleasant experience possibly. I mean, I don't know if we'll be able to do, not just specifically with her, but just in general, the collective consciousness is coming from a really low place. So I don't know how long it will take for us to really clear these beliefs. But as a healer, or a healing presence, I'm not a healer, I just hold space to facilitate healing. That's all my job, is to remind her that she's not done anything wrong. And if there's any guilt complexes where these experiences have to be negative or have to be painful or have to result in some sort of unwellness, just reminding her that it's a gift that she's giving this being an opportunity to come into this plane, and that being is just stoked to be there. So that was just something that came through. But really our job in general is just to remind people that they are loved and that there's nothing they ever did wrong or could do wrong. And surfing can be like that. I mean, the waves will toss you around. They'll be calm and clear and beautiful. It reflects all the energies. But at the end of the day, the ocean is a loving presence, and it's always taking care of me. Even a few times when I probably went out and surfed that was a little too big, and I did actually one time think I was going to die, called in my guides because I was so tired. But it just gently pushed me back to shore. And so to me, surfing, it's this playground, it's a spiritual practice, it's a workout, it's clears your energy field. I mean, if I could think of two things that have propelled my healing and being able to create this foundation of life, it would be surfing and A Course in Miracles, and the mind training, a spot it, any kind of mind training that is helping me to remember that peace is my goal, that I am love, and that even if I get upset, I yell, I get mad or jealous or something, that's not me, and I just need to be able to move through those things. Just like we have to move through big surf, and we get tossed around by it, but eventually we get to the surface, we make it out the back, and we can breathe again. And that's life. It's just this continuous cycle of getting through the waves, and the waves are bigger sometimes, they're smaller other times. Some lessons are easier, some are harder. And I was really feeling that on Friday. A natural surf happened with me and a bunch of guys, which is my favorite way to surf, actually, I've realized. I like girls too, but growing up I always surfed with boys because they were the only ones I surfed with really that I knew. I had a couple of girlfriends that surfed, they were there as well, but just generally there'd be a lot of boys. And on Friday just naturally worked out. It was like me, Greg, and a bunch of our friends showed up, and a bunch of our girlfriends too. We're chilling on the beach and hanging out, and there was just really good vibes. It was all people that are just very conscious, very loving, very aware, and on this train, which I need in my life at this time, is to be around people with that energy. It's just the soft, gentle. And we paddled out in these pretty big waves and trying to duck dive under the waves, like getting mangled around, tired, and I was really feeling, heaviness of the ocean. And that heaviness is the same heaviness you'll feel in life. And so what the ocean can do is it can help you to practice, staying calm and trusting, when a big wave comes and I feel like my breath is about to expire, and I can just relax and trust that I'm going to come back up to the surface. That is it's a breath work, it's a spiritual practice. And so I'm not saying go out in big waves, but I just have found that the ocean, surfing, it's not just an activity, it's actually a lifestyle. It's a spiritual lifestyle. Not everyone may be as consciously aware of it, but people are just drawn to it. And not everyone's drawn to it, but the people that are, they're really drawn. And even when I was thinking about becoming a surf lesson instructor, I just thought, who would want to learn surfing from me? There's a million people to learn surfing from, and who would want to invest this much time and energy into surfing? But it's just amazing that the clients that I have, I don't have to do anything. There is something within them that is like, they know surfing is their path, and they are adopting that lifestyle. And that's part of, I think, what I'm actually teaching them is how to embody surfing as a lifestyle. And that's been a gift I've had. Like I said, I haven't always surfed on a surfboard standing up. I've boogie boarded, I swam, I did a lot of different modes for a long time, but it's just been a gift that I've been able to have the chance to live this way and have this spiritual practice that's embodied and brings my people together, and it just does all the things that a church can do, but without anything, without having to give money or, those type things. Yeah, you have to invest money in some gear sometimes. But you can always just go out for a swim with just yourself. So I really wanted to talk about surfing as a spiritual practice. And if any of you out there are feeling that draw, I highly recommend it. It's you meet great people. You go anywhere in the world, and it's a common language. We went to El Salvador a few years ago, and there's a lot of Brazilian guys there, and they did not speak English or refused to speak English. But by the end, I knew, what the words for wind, waves, surfboard, we figured it out because we already have that, like music, like math, that common language. So really cool. So all right, I think that feels like a good place to stop here for now. I've been talking for a while. That's what's been coming through lately. There's a lot more ideas and downloads, but I just feel like this is a good place to start. So I'm on my way to the Boundary Waters. Send me some love and some peace and calm that I can really embody my trust while I'm in the woods, a place that can trigger and frighten me sometimes. I love you guys so much, and I'm here for you. I know some of you have been going through tough times, and definitely thinking of you and sending you lots of love on this journey. I know a lot of big lessons are coming up. Hang in there. You're doing great. There is a lot of fun coming, a lot of life ahead, a lot of joy. The hardest parts are over. There's still some challenges to come for sure, but if you've made it this far, if you have a peace of mind practice, you're going to get there, because everything is going to work out. The universe is benevolent. Bears do not want to attack us. and neither do the government or any of these entities that have seemed like they're attacking us. They're just benevolent, and it's our opportunity to become creators and shape our universes, shape our life, have influences over these entities in a loving, heart-centered way that will impact them forever. This has been Brittany with Surfing Waves of Light, and me and my guides will speak to you again at another time. Bye.